To my audience, we are going to have another topic just a second. But if you're enjoying this topic, right, if you came in and at some point, I think there's multiple points you might have come in here and it got progressively weirder. So hopefully you came in at the beginning and like saw where this conversation came from. But anyway, when we got
No,
there,
I
if
hope
you
they didn't. I hope they just joined as you're
oh
talking about
boy.
cock and balls.
Okay. Hit that follow button. Hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications on so you know I'm going live. I do this 7 nights a week. 7 nights a week we're streaming. Okay. All right. We're here on YouTube. So follow the channel. Exclamation point social and chat for our social media. We got Twitter where we tweet things. We tweeted about this, right? So if you didn't know about it, it's because it's not part of our Twitter. Discord where everything happens, right? So the community, be a part of the Discord. We'd love to see you there. Jump on in, and then YouTube is where you'll find the VODs. If you missed anything, check out the VODs. Like, comment, subscribe, consider becoming a YouTube member. Supporting us that way by hitting that join button. It means a lot, does a lot, allows us to have this daily content. So support us that way. Thank you. Oh, also sub to the channel. To this channel. Okay, thank you so much. Moving on. Oh boy. All right. I thought this would be the second topic, the more interesting topic. I'm like, oh, how are we gonna get through the first one? All right. Topic 2. At the Oscars, Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith concerning her alopecia condition, which is a condition where you lose your hair. Her husband, Will Smith, then strolled to the stage and slapped Chris Rock in retaliation. Is there ever any good excuse to lay hands on someone for insulting you? What about insulting a close loved one? What about insulting children? Or are some words too incendiary? So a violent reaction should be forgiven. All right. You guys all fucking know what happened. It was a thing. The slap heard around the world. An instant meme. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. But, like, I do want to expand the conversation, not just from this particular incident, but, like, the idea in general. Like, is it okay to hit ever? Right? So let's go to Top Dolphin.
All right. So first off, I just want to start off that his joke was not about her alopecia condition. I hate this framing of things because if he made a joke about her bald head, okay? If somebody made a joke about a man's bald head, we wouldn't be on fucking Twitter being like, "Oh my god, he made a joke about his male pattern baldness." People are just mad because some strong black woman got a little bit offended at a little very, very, very slightly edgy humor, and it's really stupid. Not enough people are like pointing and laughing. It's just funny. It's fucking comedians and like celebrities doing their thing, and people get offended. It's a joke, and people are like way too mad about this.
Scott?
I'm sorry, is it my turn? I apologize.
Yes.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with everything.
Cock and ball torture.
Oh, cock and ball torture, yes. Unfortunately, my chat has devolved for a moment into saying that they want CBT therapy from Not So Erudite, and I don't think they're talking about cognitive behavioral therapy. That being said, when it comes to this Will Smith thing, I mean, I think it is just funny. Assuming that it's real, I mean, it appears to be real. It could have just been a publicity stunt because the Oscars is a trash show that only lefties watch at this point, and most of America is tuned out because it's stupid and everybody knows that the awards are mostly meaningless anyways. That being said, I think if it is real, what we're really seeing that I think is sadder than anything is the kind of devolution of Will Smith and like his inability to just divorce this horrible woman, right? I mean, she's obviously fucking other dudes and then making him go into podcasts talking about like how he's totally okay with it. And you can see he looks like a fucking hostage in the entire situation. And, and then like going out there and publicly saying that Will Smith doesn't please her in bed. And like, like any other dude should have just left this fucking bitch. Like, just leave her. She's not good for you. She's got you totally cucked out and you're buying into it because you want to be the good guy. Right. And it's sad. And of course, he thought the joke was funny and then she didn't. And so he felt like he needed to defend her honor. Fuck her honor. She has no honor. She's not a fucking worthwhile woman to keep around. Like, you're fucking Will Smith. Go get somebody that actually gives a fuck about you. And, it's sad to see this kind of occur to this man. So that's what I would say.
Okay. Let's go to Kay, please.
So Vivian kind of hit it right on the dot. There's a lot of speculation about the fact that He really thought the joke was funny. He laughed, and then you see her face go down, and she is not happy with the joke. And then he looks over, and then all of a sudden, he's storming onto the stage. So you don't think there's any correlation with the fact that originally he thought the joke was funny, but now that his wife is upset about it, now he feels the need to defend her. In that situation, I think it's definitely, like Fabian said, she has cheated on him several times. There's been a lot of the if he loved me more, I wouldn't cheat on him. These type of statements being made. Clearly, he's trying to defend some type of honor he has, that she stays with him or something. I don't know. She's trying to please him in that moment. And I think he kind of put himself in a bad fucking situation. Onto the other part of the topic, I do believe there are certain situations that when you say something out of pocket that you do deserve to probably get punched in the face. There's some people who clearly haven't had that happen enough, or clearly haven't had anyone stand up for them when they say some stupid ass shit, because they continue to say some stupid ass shit. I was bullied for a majority of my life, and I've watched people say the wrong shit to the wrong person, and then you get fucking rocked, and then, hey, you don't say that shit anymore. You learn your lesson not to be a douchebag and make comments that you shouldn't be making towards people. So I think, yeah, there's certain points. If somebody made a comment about me at this day and age, I probably wouldn't give a fuck, because I can care less about what people think about me. You say something about my family, more particularly my grandfather or my younger sisters, yeah, we're probably gonna square up. There's gonna be an issue going on. But yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Next erudite.
Okay, yeah. Pretty simply, I think we should be careful to not make like a ton of assumptions about the relationship. I think like Jaida probably could have just taken an L. I think it's like you can be offended, more or less, but like comedians at Oscars and Golden Globes gonna do what they do, which is that they roast people. Sucks that she was so insecure about it, but that's the end of it. To presume like this weird thing between her and Will, like, to be honest, like it cuts out right before he actually gets up, so we have no idea how she reacted to him getting up, like none. And there's no clip back to her. We don't know if she was like, no, stop, Will, like don't, or if she was being like, yeah, get up there and punch him in the face. Like we don't know. And so I don't want to like assume anything other than being like, Will's an adult, he's responsible for his actions, and I'm not going to put his actions on Jaida. I'm very dubious if somebody tried to argue that she was like the cause and like spurring that on. I don't think that's really on her. I think hitting a comedian over, like, to be honest, like not that bad of a roast is pretty silly. And I think anyone defending Will Smith is delusional, or just like, I don't know, maybe they're just like broadly pro-violence. And then I guess, I don't know, I guess say it with your chest. I disagree, but I guess at least you're being consistent. But overall, yeah, I think if you're like defending Will Smith in any of this, especially after his apology, after he was like sobbing on thing, it's just like, obviously like he felt like it was the incorrect action. And I wouldn't say anyone would argue that it's appropriate to run on stage after like a pretty light tier roast and physically assault somebody on public national television. Like that was a little cringe. Didn't love the standing ovation afterwards for him. That was also pretty cringy. So yeah, pretty simple.
Isco.
Yeah, I think it's weird to like presume aspects about the relationship that, you know, there could be more that we're not aware of, just on the basis of like a couple interviews. To me seems like super wild and unjustified, but you don't need to know all that stuff to sort of analyze the morality or ethics of what's going on here. It's absolutely unjustifiable, that hit. And weird people like Sharpie in the chat who try to defend it are violent assholes who support violent conduct from others in a country that celebrates critique and satire and insulting jokes. You know, like this is a country where you're allowed to say vile shit, and you're not supposed to be able to hit people on the basis of that. I totally disagree with some of the Supreme Court precedent on like fighting words and that stuff, and even that sort of narrow category of words where which can be sort of like, you know, outlawed or prescribed, is super narrow, and it would encompass what was done by Chris Rock. And so I think anyone who's defending this violent, aggressive act, this battery from Will Smith, is just like super weird, and like doesn't respect what America's about, or care about protecting others from violent assholes.
Okay. Pisco, I've been meaning to say like literally the entire stream. Are you using the right mic?
Oh, maybe not. Damn.
I've been meaning to say the entire goddamn time. I keep getting distracted, so there it is. I said it. All right.
Better.
Would you say it again?
Is that better? Testing.
That's
Testing.
much better. I'm sorry. I've been meaning to tell you,
Oh my
but
God,
it's my
That's
fault.
my fault. That's my fault.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Wick.
Okay, so real quick, our line cannot be, I feel offended, so I'm going to physically hurt you. That cannot be our line. And if you pretend like, oh, well, there's a system of oppression in place, and what he did was violence, and what he did was all bad, and it hurt her so much, and we have to stand up against it. Trust me, if you go on Twitter and make fun of someone for being an incel, and then they beat you up because they felt offended, I'm going to be the first to say that's wrong, that they should not have done that. Because, again, this normalization of violence disturbs me greatly. We cannot do this. It's going to hurt minorities more than anyone else. It's going to hurt the powerless more than anyone else. It's going to hurt those without strength more than anyone else. And if we continue to do this, if we continue to pretend like yes, Queen Slay, when Will Smith goes up and in an unhinged moment, physically beats someone for making a joke at a comedy show about his wife, that's okay, or was it some sort of mental kind of breakdown in that moment? It frustrates me so much. And to use this as an excuse to engage in this really misogynistic rant about, well, it's actually Jada's fault, is also disgusting.
Okay. Let's go to Katie.
Yeah. I'm not big on violence for any reason. Personally, there are even few reasons why I'd ever say it's okay, if at all. And social prescription wise, my line is definitely not at they hurt my fifis or my waifu's fifis. I'm more at the point of like, we're being oppressed for generations and now we're going to violently revolt, and even then I have some critiques, so I don't think Jaida was at that point. But I actually would like to pose a counter argument and say that she should leave him, because if somebody makes a joke about you and your husband gets up and chooses to physically assault the person who did that, then I don't think they're a very good husband and you shouldn't be with them, and they're an embarrassment to you. So that would be my counter argument. Also, yeah,
Star.
that's that.
Best.
All right. So I pretty much agree with what people are saying. There's no reason for somebody to act out in violence, right? But on Twitter, I've seen plenty of people pointing the finger at Jada Pinkett Smith for the altercation between Will Smith and Chris Rock, and I don't like that. I think that's borderline conspiratorial. I also have seen plenty of dudes on Twitter with the take that plenty of men go bald, and we don't get offended when people make jokes about it. I don't think it's fair to be comparing male societal norms to female societal norms, right? It was clearly something that she was self-conscious about. It's a condition that she has been somewhat public about, although not everybody knew about it. And it's pretty much commonly accepted that men do lose their hair. It's not so much for women, right? We know that typically in our society, men are valued for their accomplishments over their looks, whereas women are valued for their looks over their accomplishments. That's just the way it is. Say what you will, but that's just the way it is. And I also think it's weird that everyone's bringing up their relationship status and the nature of their relationship into this. That's also conspiratorial, in my opinion. Just because Will Smith laughed at the joke doesn't mean that he wasn't angry. Plenty of people laugh at things that make them angry. Plenty of people laugh in a response, in an anger response, right? End of the day, yeah, it's unacceptable for him to have hit Chris Rock. But I just don't like all of the finger pointing at Jada Pinkett Smith, and I don't like all of the, let's hold this weird expectation to her when we clearly know that she's in a public facing role, right? And we know that women in general are generally more valued for their looks. So
I
So one
so
of the,
and
I think there's a
finally
major
on final I just and we can go straight to you. We can go straight to you, but and then we'll do Adam and then Wick. And Erudite. So I just want to say I looked it up because I hadn't heard about this whole Jada cheating on Will thing until like the start of the stream, the very start, where someone said that.
Wait, you never heard about the entanglement?
I'm just learning about this.
Live broadcasts all the time. She has her own podcast
I
where
completely
she talks about
separate
the men she
myself from
sleeps
pop
with,
culture.
like-
But like I just looked into the interview when they talk about it, and it's clear that they were having a separation, and then they she reached out. She was having a hard time, a bad time in the marriage. They had a thing, and I'm not sure if that ended at that point, but like they might have an open marriage. Like clearly, it's not a problem for them. I don't know why people are just assuming this is cheating. Like Pisco said, like we don't know the fucking marriage. Like it's weird. But anyway,
It's weird to bring it in the nature of their relationship into this one altercation.
I agree.
This is
Go
the
ahead,
point because
Scott.
there's an opinion that is held by probably predominantly conservatives, right? And I think maybe this is what is being missed is that there is an opinion of an old school form of chivalry, right? An old school form of honoring, like protecting the honor of your relationship and your marriage. And that's very clearly what is the point here, right? Like we're talking about someone making fun of someone else's wife and then that person feeling like, no, I need to do something as the man in this relationship to defend her honor because it's my role as a man to not let that occur, right?
And they shouldn't because they're not monogamous. So no.
What I'm saying is that
anything.
this woman is not some chaste fucking like you know what I mean? Like this isn't some chivalrous fucking chaste woman. Chaste woman that it's not like their marriage is this traditional fucking marriage or anything like that, or that they're not like public figures. Like she goes out and trash talks her fucking husband regularly while talking about other dudes that she slept with. Now,
how does that affect the normative?
He's had a side piece for years. Like, what's the big deal? They both
the big
have
deal,
side pieces.
right? The big deal.
If they were more traditional, would that change your outlook? If they
Yes,
were more
obviously.
traditional,
Will Smith.
All
Will
that
Smith is an
matters-
adult.
Hold up. All that matters is whether the couple at play felt like it was cheating. If you look through the actual script, they said, I got into an entanglement with August. And then Will says, an entanglement, a relationship. And he's clearly not happy about it. So yes, after this, they did move into a more open relationship because Will had also cheated on her in the past, right? And they had been monogamous previously, right? Like people deciding whether it was cheating or not as well based on like their open relationship and stuff feels weird because like the couple themselves seem to voice like discomfort from it.
Why does it matter? Why does it matter?
Yeah, I really hate
It
this.
doesn't
I hate that we're
I'm just
talking
being
about the
clear
relationship.
that when we're talking about somebody's relationship, fundamentally their perception of their relationship trumps everything else. If they felt it was cheating, it was cheating. If they didn't feel it was cheating, it wasn't cheating. Does it have anything to do with this situation? Probably not.
No, that's not the point. Is that what you guys are missing is many of you have expressed like being confounded by people that are saying that this might be some appropriate behavior and you're wondering where the fuck is this? What I'm saying is the disconnect is that this is a value that a lot of people have of protecting your woman, of not letting somebody else talk smack about her and things like that, but it's a very traditional value that does even
She
if
ain't worthy of right.
She's not fucking worthy of this shit. Right?
Wait. But would it change your
What's
opinion?
your
Would it change
opinion, though, right?
Would it change your opinion of the hit if they were in a more traditional relationship? That it was
ever so slightly.
Okay, I mean, like, why even bring it up then? If you're saying
it wouldn't
ultimately,
it wouldn't change the opinion. Wouldn't change my opinion about whether or not what he did was moral or whether or not he should have done that thing. Right? It would change my opinion about the reasoning that he had and whether or not I doubt his reasoning and whether or not it's a difference between like a man trying to be like I'm going to protect my woman because this is bullshit, or whether or not this is like some dude that's just trying to grab one.
So let's go
Smith is a doormat. It bothers him.
Let's go to Top Dolphin and.
But he is a doormat.
So
he is a fucking doormat.
So first, I don't know. So this is like a traditional thing, but like in the black community, I'm gonna say this. I don't speak for the whole black community right now because I'm obviously representative of every single black person on the planet.
He's my guy.
Yeah, like black women, even really far like leftist black women, are like all for this idea that like if like you like I get offended or some guy like pisses me off in a bar that you like her man is gonna confront him. That's like totally like a normal thing that happens in black spaces. Just in case anybody didn't know, like him like getting up there and like hitting Chris Rock, really not that extreme when it comes to like what black women expect from their partners. Also, I want to like poke at Stardust when she said that like all the people, like maybe she wasn't talking about what I said, but like the idea that like men don't get mad when you make fun of us for getting bald. I'm not as mad about that or like upset or not really talking about that. No one really cares about like men getting mad about people talking about it. It's the outrage of everybody. It's the outrage. What?
Why don't you care about the double? I think the double center's totally legitimate to bring up.
Wait, no. Yeah, so you're right. I don't care about the individual getting upset at a joke, is what I'm saying. What I do care about is not that like a man wouldn't have got mad, but the societal outrage that like if a man had got mad, people wouldn't be like on Twitter posting about it, being like, oh my god, like her hair condition, like this is the big issue is that like the societal outrage on her getting mad about her hair condition versus men getting who might get upset about or offended by their hair condition. Whereas like this is also like people say, oh, like no one cares about, like men don't care about their look. Losing your hair as a man is like one of the like worst things that men a lot of men go
through. There's a whole industry dedicated to it. I mean,
I'm sure it is, but I would still argue that like there's still more of like a societal standard for women to like women are more valued for their looks in general. That's just what it is, you know.
But shouldn't we fight that societal standard?
Granted, even
we should.
First of all,
hold on. I'm not, and again, I'm not justifying.
Come
I'm
here.
not
You gotta come
justifying.
closer.
I'm not justifying him hitting him. I'm just saying that I can understand
got
like,
Ariana.
being
She's like
sympathetic
splotchy.
towards her. That's all.
I should head to toe, baby.
Cool, dude. He's bald. Yeah.
Okay.
So much streaming partner has helped.
Let's get Wick and then Pisco.
She's allowed to be offended or not. That's just like her personal feelings.
Wick
I've
and
been
Pisco.
bald as a woman. Honestly, it was like a pretty based experience. I got probably more compliments than I'd ever gotten in my life because I would say like there's actually a fair bit of deference, but like fair enough. If she's embarrassed about it, like a couple of people brought about specifically like black women and hair, and there's like a unique relationship there, I'm willing to defer. Like you get to be offended. Like your feelings are your feelings, right? It's hard to like watch somebody who's like rich and famous and like powerful and all these things get like super butt mad over like, to be honest, being compared to G.I. Jane, who's like a fucking yoked boss as well. Like again, she gets to be offended. It's just why the part where I'm like, I don't really care. That's why I'm like, I don't really care about the joke. I think it's fine.
Go ahead. Oh, hold on. Wick has been waiting. And then
we're talking about everything but the actual point here. It doesn't fucking matter what their relationship is. It really doesn't. It doesn't fucking matter if they were offended. It doesn't matter if the joke was offensive. It doesn't matter if Chris Rock was appropriate in saying that joke or not. You can have your opinions on that. They're perfectly valid too. But it really doesn't matter. The only thing that matters here is that one individual, Will Smith in this case, decided because some words were used against him that it was okay to do physical violence to someone else. And yes, I understand it's just a slap, but we cannot normalize it. We have to draw a hard line against these things because we cannot just allow individuals to decide it's okay to do violence when someone insults them. That is a road we do not want to go down. Again, we're dancing all around this issue, and it's a distraction to talk about like, well, her relationship and their open relationship and maybe what he's gone through. Okay, sure. I can understand. But I cannot condone. I can understand, like, okay, he was very mad. Okay, he was very upset. I understand that. I've gotten mad. I've gotten upset. And when I was a kid, when I was 10, yeah, I would give in to those emotions. I'd let the rage take control. I would throw fists and stuff. But now that I'm a grown-ass adult, I don't do that because I'm not fucking childish. Okay. Will Smith was fucking childish.
So, hold on. I'm going to let Katie in and Stardust and Pisco then, because I don't know if Pisco's birthday at the seams. But there's so many aspects to this that we're not touching on. I want to expand this because I think we were missing a lot of this interaction. Go ahead, Katie.
Didn't you want to top Dolphin first?
The top Dolphin already went.
Okay. Yeah, Wick, I get it, but I feel like everyone has explicitly said like that was uncalled for, right? So I don't know what else the panel could say about it. 'Cause I'm really not sure anyone objected. I actually thought, and you kind of agreed with me earlier,
well,
like
Fabian,
a lot of
Fabian and K Buckoff were both like, yeah, it's okay sometimes.
I never said that.
I could
I
be
literally
wrong.
never
Well,
said that.
No,
No, I
admitting I
guess
could be wrong.
Kay said something like,
yeah, Kay,
yeah.
There's
Bob,
certain points that, like, if you press
Exactly.
on somebody's nerve, shit's gonna go down, and you got to watch what you fucking say. And depending on the
Yeah.
situation you're in, shit's gonna go, and you're gonna have to
Okay.
deal with that consequences for the shit you said.
And plus
So
the
fair,
audience
Wick.
as well. And the audience as well. It's not just us that we're speaking to. We're speaking to the chat. We're speaking to our individual chats. And there are plenty of people, at least in my chat, who would defend this. So I'm not just talking to the panel. I'm talking to the audience as well. And
Okay, that's fair. I was just gonna say that for me, it's pretty open and shut, and I don't really have a lot of interest in talking about like why punching people or like hitting people or slapping people is somehow reasonable to any capacity. And I thought like the amount of like misogynistic shit that just like rose right at the beginning for no reason was a lot more interesting, I guess, to discuss. And I would like to engage with Stardust on like the double standard thing, because I understand the issue that I have with what you're saying is that like when people say that's just how the world is, it's kind of confusing to me because it's kind of like, well, what do you want to do about that? What we're obviously talking about stuff that we want changed, or unless we're saying that how we see the world is fine the way that it is right now. And I don't think you're saying that. I think it's going to I guess I would like you to talk about that more because I think you were making an interesting point and I'd like to hear more about it. So that was what I was going to say.
Stardust?
Yeah, so basically I just wanted to say, like, I think we all agree that the violence was, violence is never the answer, right? But my main thing is that with this story coming up, what I find problematic is I see all these things on Twitter, either blaming Jaida immediately for this, right? Pointing the finger at her, saying that she made him go up there and do it. Like, we don't know that. Like, we really don't know that. He laughed at it. Plenty of people laugh at things in anger. I mean, I've laughed at things when I've gotten angry, right? But like you're saying, there is like a, obviously it's a sensitive spot for men and for women. I'm just trying to be a little bit more sympathetic towards her. I get it that yes, she's like rich and famous. What is there to be sympathetic over? But like it is a pretty I mean, we see it here every time she's up in the media, like she's getting dogged on, right? And like and it looks are so important to a woman, especially in a woman who's aging, right?
Yeah,
So,
I guess I understand that. It's just
Yeah.
like because it's him that like did the inappropriate thing, then it feels to me maybe like extending sympathy to her feels a little bit like unrelated to the topic.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And it is unrelated to the topic, but the only reason why I'm extending sympathy to her is because even if she is unrelated to him hitting Chris, well, I guess only like it's partially related, but like everybody else has made it so much more related than it actually is, right? That's what the discourse is.
That's very much true, yeah. I understand. So it's like a counter reaction to how everybody made it about her.
I'm just gonna push back on that. I just don't think that's right. Who knows if she actually approved of that? Like maybe she watched him going up there and she was like, "Oh God, like don't do that. Like this is your night,"
Which is what I think is the appropriate reaction, to just be like, you're tying her into this where it's like you don't know any of these things. But I wouldn't necessarily like extend empathy in the way that you are because, well, first of all, I think the double standard is very problematic, and also
I think it's problematic too. I think it's problematic too, but like I'm just saying, like I understand where it's I understand, like she like Natsu Erudite said, she has the right to be offended, right? But nobody has the right to hit somebody over being offended.
So I'm gonna go to Pisco. I'm gonna jump in because I want to say something. The Not So Erudite Tap Dolphin.
Yeah, it's so silly. No one's like crying when Donald Trump is made fun of when his hair is like thinning out, and no one is saying, "Oh, well, what about how sensitive he is?" You could say that on average, women are more respected for their looks or whatever. But why would you want to like formalize that and provide support to that by like feeding into it and accepting that as a norm and thinking that it's okay to have this disparity in treatment in looks between men and women? So I think the comparisons to men and women, the double standard there is absolutely legitimate to bring up. and the fact that no one really cares if you're making fun of bald men or short men. How many times on this platform has there been this like never-ending discourse about how short men are, which is absolutely a sensitive subject for a lot of guys. And so I don't take to heart this oh boo-hoo, poor women have it so hard, and we should like maintain that approach that women are only valued for their looks and have a disparate treatment in how we react to insults against appearance from one and not the other.
We should maintain it. The only reason why I'm providing that pushback is just because there was already this wave of like what it seems like directed anger at her, and it just doesn't make sense to me, right?
It's misogyny, right?
Yeah.
There's a word for it. It's called misogyny. Yeah.
So, okay, it's interesting because I wanted Pisco here for a very specific reason. When I was thinking of this topic, it's because we've had similar conversations before in the past.
The criminal.
Yeah. So, it's. So there have been a lot of conversations as to why Will Smith did the thing that he did, right? So I want to look at that, but I want to use that to expand the conversation past this incident, because it seemed to me, right, like after thinking about it for like fucking 4 seconds, right, that that slap at Chris Rock was not direct for Chris Rock. Right, especially when you hear Will's speech afterwards, talking about like how when you're famous, people say all kinds of crazy shit about you. Right, craziness comes at you. I am not famous. Craziness comes at me. Right, and when you're in the public eye, people say the meanest things to you. And not just to you, about your parents, about your wife, about your kids, right? They say all kinds of stuff, and then you just got to sit there and take it, right? And at this moment, he didn't want to take it anymore, right? Now, whether he found it funny before or not, I can't adjudicate that part. But like he marched up there, and so I wanted to relate that to like legally, where it's called, I think it's inciting words or fighting words, whatever the term is, right? Where we understand that there are some certain words that cause a reaction, right? We talk, and the reason I wanted to do this topic here instead of what everyone was suggesting, doing all black everything, is because we actually talk about this issue many times. The N-word discussion, right? And that being an inciting word. And I don't want to do the N-word discussion here, but the point is like, if there exist words in the black community, right, or people kind of say, "Oh yeah, I guess it's okay that you react violently to that," then why not for other people? So, Pisco, do you wanna?
So the first part of that was like this whole celebrity disparate treatment in terms of how much insults that they're sort of subject to. I think you have to play both sides of that there, because on the one hand, yeah, you're more subject to attacks, but look at this unequal treatment of justice. Try slapping someone like that in the middle of the street in front of a cop or in front of, tons of people. You're going to get arrested because guess what? That's battery. And I'm
Wait,
sure
this
it's not
is
a
just
felony.
not true.
but
People slap each other all the time. It's not like he like went in the street and like whooped Chris Rock's ass and like beat him
What
into
do you
the
think?
ground.
What do you think battery?
People
What do you think
like,
battery
I
is?
don't know if you've
What-
ever been out in real life,
Chosen
but
some
people
people and
slap
did it.
each other all the time and don't go to jail for it.
are
Like,
you-
saying
are you-
that-
are you trying
saying
to
that
lecture
because this
me?
happened on a stage, dog? Because like, oh my god,
What
like,
do you think
he
battery
went
is?
out-
What's
he's
the
like,
definition of battery?
I don't
Tell me.
care what the
You
legal
don't
definition
care.
of battery is. Yes, people
That's a
could
battery.
get in trouble. I don't care if it's a battery. Okay,
Okay.
people could get in trouble. There's a lot of things people could get in
So if
trouble
you
with that
slapped
are
your
stupid.
wife like that, do you think you should go to jail?
Oh, wait, hold on. One,
yes
it
or no?
depends on the context, okay? But two, slapping people and like
You think
a
there should
lot
be an
of people-
investigation into you if you slap your
Huh?
wife like that?
Oh my gosh, I don't give a fuck. Okay, there's a lot.
You're not
of,
going to answer the question.
If she feels there needs to be an investigation, sure.
You
But
think that there
there's a
should
lot-
be an investigation into something like that? You feel.
sometimes, sure.
When don't you feel that there should be an investigation into
There's
someone
lots of
slapping their wife like
cases-
that?
There's lots of cases where people slap each other that we like as a society say, okay, like it's not that bad. People don't need to go over to jail over this.
Not
is
necessarily,
like
but-
this is like a non-controversial thing. Like if a guy hit on a girl
Yeah.
in a bar and she felt a little bit uncomfortable, like threw a drink in his face, but like he wasn't being like mean or rapey or anything. A lot of or if she slapped him, a lot of people would be like, it's okay. Like obviously, like she probably shouldn't hit him, but like I don't think we need to call the cops and like take
Okay,
him to jail
but
over
that's
this,
up to the person
right?
being slapped to decide. If the person slapped decides they want to press charges, then the other person will go to
People
jail.
have gone to jail
Yeah,
for
100%.
much less. For
I-
much
I
less.
agree
So
with
you're-
that, right?
Can we just say that like the law is black and white?
Wait,
right?
hold on. Wait,
Now,
I
the
just- I
enforcement
wanna-
of
wait,
it
wait,
isn't
wait.
always
I want to
black
respond
and
to what
white.
Wick said because I literally just said before when he brought up the wife example. If the wife feels that charges need to be pressed, they should be pressed, right? That was literally my words, dog.
But I just want to say, like, the law is black and white. Now, obviously, there's different enforcement of the law. I mean, you know, like the law isn't always equal to everyone. Obviously, there's systems of like representation in court, et cetera, et cetera. But for the most part, the law is designed to be black and white. And I think we do need to recognize that, like, morality isn't always something that we can say is black and white, right? I mean, people attempt to make it black and white, but there are gray lines sometimes in like what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. And so I think sometimes it can be a personal choice for people to accept the consequences of their actions, but feel so strongly that they need to do something regardless of what the law says. Right. And that is in sometimes those areas where something is morally gray, right? Like they're like, you know, using the bar example for is kind of the inverse of this, right? Where like a guy is hitting on you and like she feels really offended and she wants this guy out of her fucking space. And so maybe she overreacts a little bit. This is an area where it's like, how do we deal with that situation? Or let's say, you know, someone is trash talking your
when it comes
fucking
to
wife
words.
at a bar.
Huh.
Right. So somebody's saying horrible, just terrible shit to your wife. Like, there are plenty of men out there that would do the calculation and say, you know what? Motherfucker needs to get slapped. And then they do so, and then they accept the consequences of that action. Right. And so I think sometimes we muddy the waters a little bit when we get too much into like what is legal and what is illegal, and not necessarily understanding that sometimes it can be a perceived moral action to break the law and to accept the consequences, knowing that when you broke the law that you were going to face those consequences.
Okay, Erudite, and
I think-
hold on, one second, because I want to finish this point, and then I want to move on to Erudite, and Top Dolphin, you got a point you want to finish, then we'll go to Wick. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Pisco, right?
Yeah.
Is
I
there
was gonna.
not like some sort of not quite exception or something, but like
Yeah, I was
some
gonna
sort of
get to that.
mitigating circumstances when someone says an inciting word to you?
So I was going to get to that. First of all, I don't think that he should go to jail and be in prison for all this time. I'm just saying this is a battery, and I was just merely saying that he goes on stage, slaps a very famous person in you know in the middle of an audience, and everyone just walks it off like it's nothing. That's a second sort of system of justice as opposed to the rest of us. And I was just merely saying that in the context of, well, he complains about you know, all the scrutiny from the media. Well, he gets the benefit of being very famous and powerful too.
Right.
That's all I said. And on the question of what is fighting words is a category of quote unquote unprotected speech. And so there's case law going back where if you know, a certain level of kind of words that are by their nature, you know, likely to get someone to just hit you right away, that are just that so inflame and excite the passions, you could get like arrested for those words. But that's more looking at kind of like the relationship between the government and the people who said the words, as opposed to the two private individuals who are engaged in that discourse. But certainly there are some in the context of self-defense, there are words you could say which would make it so that any attack towards you wouldn't be criminal. So if you said,
I'm going to kill you.
I'm going to kill you, I have a bomb right now, or I'm going to go hurt you right now, those would be the kind of words where you might put someone in reasonable fear that, you know, unlawful force is going to be applied to them, and then any attack towards them is going to be justified and not unlawful.
What
But
about like
the
hit
question
me?
is like, what's that?
What about
hit-
something like hit me?
Maybe that's like, you know, consent to that, and maybe. But again, I don't know like what the
Like
laws
an
are.
aggressive way, like you fucking hit me, hit me if you fucking want to.
I'm not
you
sure
know,
about
like
the
that.
particulars, but I think that
Okay.
the question about whether or not we should excuse this behavior should do with like how reasonable is the apprehension of legitimate fear, and not like how insulting was the word. That seems to be more in the, like where Wick is very, very uncomfortable for us to like base on how insulting the word as opposed to how indicative is it of a mindset that's about to attack you.
Not to Erudite, and then Top Dolphin, you have anything to finish off your thoughts,
Yeah,
and then
I
Wick.
I think you guys are hitting on actually a really important part of this, because when we say like violence is never the answer, that's not always true, because like when it comes to like mass shooters in schools, we do want violence. We want the cops to get there, and ideally if they're going to keep shooting, we want them to kill the person who's doing a mass shooting, right? There are absolutely times where we need to have an integrated theory of violence. Absolutely. If somebody is running up and trying to like take my kid from my arms, for example, which is an extreme case, let's say there's like a violent kidnapping that's taking place, I am going to be as violent as I possibly can with my tiny little hands and my brain injured fucking head to try to get my kid from being kidnapped, right? So there is this space where we need to have a theory of violence, and our society doesn't quite know what to do with that. There's kind of this tension that happens, for example, if you've ever been in a bar between men, where most men know that if they're screaming at each other to a point, there's a point where it might type in to physical violence, right? And sometimes that can be warranted, more or less, depending on those parties, right? The issue is that as a society as a whole, we don't really have a good integrated theory of violence. Broadly, I would agree. Okay, so in the case of this specific example, I don't think the violence was warranted at all. I think the idea of like going up on a public stage, disrespecting the producers of the show, disrespecting the host who's just doing comedy and had already made multiple other like jokes about other people's hairline, a whole bunch of other things. I'm not for the violence in that situation, but I think referring to the question that we were given by I guess Prime here is, at what point is violence warranted, and how do we integrate a healthy theory of violence? Because I'd say broadly I'm not for violence either, but I think taking a staunch violence is never the answer isn't really true, because sometimes you get into really extreme circumstances. For example, in a case where I had a kid actively trying to jump off of a 60-foot tower, we ran and tackled that motherfucker as hard as we could and pinned her. You could argue that that was a violent action, but it was done in a desperate attempt to save somebody's life, right? There are cases where people restrain violent people to prevent them from doing other harm. You could argue that the restraint can be violent, because restraints can be super dangerous as well. And so like there are times where violence is warranted, and as a culture we need to integrate when that is and also when it isn't. And in the case of Will Smith, I would say it wasn't warranted.
So
Can I add something here?
No. We got to move
afterwards?
it. Top Dolphin.
Oh, well, I guess like to piggyback on what Nacho says, like I think the law kind of covers a little bit with like self-defense laws and stuff like that. But I'm not like Peace could probably talk about that better than I could. But I just want to like the point I want to make earlier is that there are probably like out there unwarranted slaps that like we wouldn't consider that we like as a society probably wouldn't consider a battery. Like if I'm sitting in the living room with my friends and like he makes a bad joke and I give him like a heavy-handed like tap on the shoulder that like maybe it like barely hurts, I don't think anybody in society would call that a battery. Now, could he like technically like press charges? Maybe not. I don't know how that works. But like there are levels of like slaps that like as society like we see as like okay as long as people are like not generally harmed. This is like
well,
my biggest pushback was the idea that like because he's a celebrity, like he got away with this, because there's tons of normal people who slap people every day, even probably more violent. There's people who get in fights who like nothing happens because it's and I would agree that sometimes nothing should happen, right?
Okay.
First of all,
Okay.
Wick.
Just to quickly address Erudite's point, that I think that yes, there are situations where violence is acceptable. In fact, there are situations where preemptive violence would be acceptable. But none of those situations involve someone insulting you. None of those situations involve someone using words, except for maybe a threat of harm and saying like, I have a bomb, or I'm going to stab you now, and they have a knife and they're coming out. Okay, fair enough. But when it talks, well, I think the level I'll go is in my view, we need to use the minimum amount of force to stop whatever we want to stop from happening. The minimum amount of force, ideally. So when we're doing policing, obviously, if someone is stealing, I do not think it's warranted or okay. Even though I would think, yeah, stop the stealing. But if someone's going out and cops draw their guns, start shooting wildly, that's not okay. So I do agree with you. There's a conversation to be had. But words ain't it. And to address Top Dolphin's point, I'm sure they do. I'm sure that people get away with it all the time. But the question do they get away with it? It's should they? And I'm kind of pissed at Chris Rock for not pressing charges. I don't think he should have gone to jail, but he should have gotten some kind of consequence because that's the only way we're going to.
Wrong with society, Wick. I just want to say that.
What are you talking about? You're endorsing this
100%.
violent slap?
Can I?
First of all,
I
can I finish my point and then yes. But the reason I think Chris Rock should have pressed charges is because the only way we could denormalize this violence is by showing that there are consequences to actions, even if it's just a fine, even if it's just like this kind of honorary. I forget the word. That's not the word I want. This kind of like a show kind of consequence. It's important that we do it. So that
if that was Sarah Silverman making that joke, would you come here and would you really tell us, the cops should investigate this? If he came up and Sarah Silverman made the same joke and he just slapped Sarah Silverman in the face, what would you say then?
Depending on how he slapped her, probably not.
Okay, can
Really?
I honestly don't think
Okay.
he would have gone up and slapped the girl. If it was a girl,
probably
she
not.
probably would have gotten up and
Chris
slapped her.
Rock
Like
is
it would have been a
fine,
girl
dog.
fight.
He's okay. He doesn't need to
no,
press
you're-
charges.
listen,
We don't need to go to the
I'm not
court
saying he needs to go to
system. We
jail.
don't need to go to the
But-
court. No.
but
I'm
that
not
is
saying
a
jail.
battery.
But
It's
we don't need to go
serious.
to. We don't need to go to the
It's
court
serious.
system. We don't need to go to the court system to talk about every little discrepancy that two people have between each other.
But this isn't a little.
But
This
wait,
isn't
Top,
a little
you can-
interaction.
Chris Rock
Would,
is cool.
wait.
Like-
Top, would you agree that the insult that was levied was not overly serious of an insult?
No, I agree that the response wasn't proportional, but I also agree that he got slapped. Things seem okay now. If there is more
I
of a
guess
problem,
when
maybe
I've
he should
seen-
be charges pressed.
When I've seen
Yo.
escalation between men when it comes to insult, my understanding is it tends to go insult, and it's this gradual escalation, not this insult, slap, right? And I think that's where I'm saying I think it's indefensible.
Depends on-
I'm
it
not
depends on
sure
how bad the
if
insult
he should have pressed charges. I honestly think that's up to Chris Rock exclusively. I'm very big on people who have been assaulted or had anything happen to them. They get to choose because going through the court process can be a nightmare in and of itself, right? And he might have a personal relationship. I have no idea of his relationship with these people, right? So it's
We're
as
missing-
far
if
as
I could
pressing
explain-
charges,
hold on.
it is exclusively only up to Chris Rock to decide that. I
We're
don't think
missing
That's
anyone else
true,
should be
but I
saying
can
that.
give my opinion. I can give
We're
my
s-
opinion
yeah.
on whether
We're
I think
missing-
he made the right choice or the wrong choice in this
We're
case. And I
missing
think he
the
made the wrong
point
choice. And the
here.
reason I think he made the wrong choice is because this was a very public action. Millions and millions of people saw this. Millions and millions more are going to see it again over and
And he
over
was
and over
shamed
just
for
went
it.
on.
And
And
he
it's just-
publicly
no,
released
this
his
is-
apology,
because
and then
of
the
this,
day
this was
after,
a
we gotta
great
stop this.
opportunity.
apologized.
This
No,
was a
hold
great
on.
opportunity to show publicly that there would be a consequence for this. It was
No,
a
we
great
gotta
example
stop this.
opportunity. It was a teaching moment.
I don't
No,
agree
we
at
gotta
all.
listen.
No,
I
Listen,
agree.
this is we got to stop this fucking this is so sad. Okay, what we need to focus. This is not a fucking legal discussion, right? We were talking about is this okay, pressing charges and all this shit. That's not what this fucking debate topic is. Okay, this is an
Who says what
interesting.
you get to decide what this debate topic is? Prime literally was asking about the legal stuff.
Relax.
You don't get to decide what this whole panel's about.
No, this is the key takeaway. Okay, the key takeaway is that Will Smith is a fucking bitch that was trying to defend Tupac's girlfriend, all right, and wanted to look like a fucking man and prove that he fucking wasn't. And Chris Rock proved
More
that he
interesting.
wasn't.
This is
Chris
much
Rock
more
proved-
interesting of a
But
dialogue.
here's a
You're
better
you're
narrative.
saying right now.
Will Smith
Chris
appears
Rock-
to be a man
Chris
who
Rock-
probably is
Chris
pretty
Rock-
mentally
Chris
unwell,
Rock-
and in the
Chris
case
Rock
of this thing, he
proved-
was pushed so
Chris
far that
Rock
he
proved that
reacted
he was also
hugely
a bitch.
disproportionately, which resulted
Chris
in him
Rock
being
proved that he was
publicly
also a
shamed.
bitch.
Cool,
And the reason
dude.
that he proved
Because
that he
he's
was
a
also
cuck,
bitch-
right? Because he's a
No,
cuck.
he
Yeah,
It
proved
say
resulted
it,
in him
man.
being
He
publicly
proved that
shamed
he's-
and then later publicly coming out and
Chris Rock is
apologizing
a
again.
fucking bitch, and the manliest person on this fucking panel right now is not so erudite. And even still, all right, look, Chris Rock had 3 fucking choices. Okay, he could stand there and fucking be shocked
Take
like
it
a
like
little
a
fucking
man.
pussy and fucking take it on his chin. B, he could have defended himself,
So.
and even if he got his fucking ass beat, at least show that he wasn't such a bitch that he was willing to let a man fucking
You
slap
could
him over a
argue he
joke.
was a stoic because he
three-
got slapped in the face and then
or
continued with
three-
the show anyways. Like
or
this
three, if
kind
he
of
wanted to
toxic
prove-
masculine
no,
characterization
three-
is not the
if
narrative that we
he,
should
if he
be
wanted
putting
to
in
be
here.
if he really wanted to be a fucking man, he would have taken the fucking slap and then he would have done 2 to 5 minutes of material just digging at fucking Jada Pinkett Smith for being such a dumb fucking gross whore.
Oh.
And he
Great.
would have
Now
done
that
it
we're
until they
moving
locked
on
him up.
to-
Then he
I-
was a
I-
fucking
I-
man.
I'm glad we went there. I'm glad
Every
we're talking about
opportunity
this.
to call this
we
woman
all
a whore
understand
That's all
that
you've
you
done
hate
all
that
day.
she-
Is call
she-
this
she,
woman
like,
a
she's a
whore.
cu-
That's
he
all
cu-
you've done.
She
That's
cucked
all
him
you've
out.
done,
so-
Kevin.
This is
It's
clearly
only
the
contribution
case.
you made.
This
Is
is
calling
okay,
this a whore over and over
okay,
again.
okay. All right, look. So why I asked Pisco that question about like in legal terms, at least here in the States, obviously people are from different countries here, is that here we have a bit of a carve out, right? We understand that there are some words that will drive a person to take an action, right? Whether that's justified or not, like on a societal level, we get it. And I wanted to like really expand on this because again, I've had this conversation about the N-word like multiple times, right? If Destiny wasn't banned, he'd be here like bringing it to the N-word. But it seems like for other people, right? There are other triggers. So talking about a person's kids, right? It drives a person to do things, right? Like talking about that theory of violence, I guess Erudite was saying, right? Like, should that be something integrated into our society? Look, you open your mouth, you talk crazy about his little girl, right? And then you got fucking smacked. It is what it is, right? Like, should we actually take seriously and attach that? That like don't open your mouth about these certain things, right? Because maybe if you do, you might get assaulted, right? Like it might happen. So I'm trying to like work with that. I hope this makes sense.
Yeah, we live in America. You're allowed to say outrageous, insulting things, and if I don't know, I guess Top Dolphin wants to live in a world where if I go up and just slap Chris Rock out of the blue, like nothing should happen to me. And like I don't know, I feel like
I think there's
especially
a different level there.
I
think
understand,
those are
Pisco,
two
that you don't live in
celebrities
the
and
real world
you're
because you've
not,
been
so I
locked
think
in law
that's a
school for the
completely
past
different
300
circumstance.
years. But like, come on, wait, come on. Okay, I hate the framing that everybody uses for this like situation that happened, right? Like, what happened was like they're at a orchard or whatever. Like, he made a joke, right, that was edgy and targeted at one person. The joke went a little bit too far. Someone gave him a "Hey, don't do that" slap on the face, and they all went back to being normal, right? Like,
That's
this is
such a
something that
weird
like kind of
characterization.
happens. Wait,
That's
no,
literally
it's
what
normal.
happened, though.
This is literally what happens. Like, it wasn't like he
It
got
didn't go back
destroyed
to
and
normal.
eviscerated.
Holy shit. It didn't go back to
It
normal. That's such a
basically went back to-
mischaracterization. What happened is Will Smith went up on stage fucking sobbing, by the way, because he's clearly not doing well. I don't know what's going on in his life, but to react that way and then go up when you're receiving a standing ovation and sob, and then the next day release a very long form apology of saying basically everything I did was really fucking wrong, just to be like, oh, it was just normal. No, for Jaida, that thing that she was really embarrassed about is now fucking memorialized for the rest of her fucking life. Okay?
She talks about it on her fucking talk show all the
Yeah,
time.
but she's embarrassed, and then her husband went up and slapped somebody as a result. So now it's even more embarrassing, which just sucks. And I already said that I don't even have that much sympathy overall for Jada Pinkett. Sucks, right? This idea that, like, yeah, you should just go on it. Okay, there's a difference. I'm even for a theory of violence. There's a difference between being in a street, chatting with your bros, he keeps throwing some shady shit, being a fucking dickhead, and you whack him upside the head, versus being on an academy presentation in front of a public audience with a very select style of how they present, a standard of roasting comedians, and then to go and slap somebody on public media. It's rude to the academy that's organizing things. It's rude to all the people watching it. There are people who have kids watching this shit who might not want their kids, blah, 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 right? It's disrespectful in that space. And even Will Smith fucking agrees. So sure, there's a time where a theory of violence is valid. For example, when Fabian Scott goes on and on and on about how Jada Pinkett is a whore and how all these things, somebody in a bar might fucking punch Fabian Scott. And most of us would feel pretty fucking satisfied with that because of the toxic masculinity that was coming out of his fucking mouth, right? There might be a time. So I'm not saying violence is never the answer, but holy fuck, that certainly wasn't the situation. Obviously.
I'm not saying that, like, I mostly agree with you. I think the response was a little bit like disproportional, and it was obviously like out of place. It was really weird. I'll use the word weird, that he like went up stage, like did the whole thing where he like walked up on stage and like walked towards Chris Rock and like slapped him in the face. That was like a very strange thing. It's very out of place. You use the word rude. I don't think that's out of context here, but the way that everyone frames this conversation is like we go like to so many different extremes that I think it's just like a little bit like disconnected from like the reality of like
no one's saying
how
you should go to
violence
prison,
exists inside.
but it was a violent,
Wait, hold on. I
aggressive
never said
act.
that people were saying he should go to prison.
Okay.
I said the idea that like we start using legal terms and we start fucking,
It's a battery. It is a battery. What else do you want?
I don't care. It's not
Okay.
a battery. No one cares. All
What do you
right?
mean it's not a
Like,
battery?
He's not pressing charges. It's not a battery. That's what it is. That's
Is that
actually
your
the case,
so
right?
if
He
someone
didn't
kills
press
someone and no
charges,
one
it's not a
wait,
battery.
so if someone kills someone and you're not around to see it and never gets charged, it wasn't a murder?
Sure, it's not a murder. No, okay. If someone
That's the
if someone
stupidest thing I've ever heard in
if
my
someone
life.
killed someone and the person who got killed didn't want to press charges, yes, it's not a murder. How
Well,
about
no,
that?
what you just
It's
said
a
was
battery.
among
The
the
question
dumbest thing I've
is
ever
said
it
is
a
the
tolerable
analogous thing, okay?
battery? It is obviously not a tolerable battery. Obviously, definitively and denotatively, it's obviously a battery, right? Whether or not Chris Rock chooses to pursue charges is going to determine whether that's obviously an offense against. And I mean, he's going to fucking lose that court case. Obviously, the evidence is everywhere, right? And that's up to Chris Rock. I'm very opposed to this idea of we can tell victims whether or not they like press charges or not to like set some like social precedent, because charges and everything is like such an intimate thing. I have no fucking idea about the relationship. But just to be clear, it's a battery. It obviously was intolerable. And the question is, are there times where as a society, we actually put up with certain levels of essentially battery? And I would say the answer is sometimes, yeah.
I think the punishment should be social. I really do. I mean, I don't.
Me
I
too.
don't
Me
think-
too. I
I
totally
don't think
agree.
that like we need to fucking go to court or like have. I don't even know that the police should press charges in this incident. You know, I do agree that prosecutors have discretion and that we should like obviously charge the batteries that matter the most. But I think that like this is a pretty bad battery, and the people in the crowd just let it go on. You know, yes, they were like a little uncomfortable. It wasn't the same, but you know, he got his award. Everything was hunky dory.
They applauded him.
And I don't like that. I think that's stupid. And I think that
Maybe
like
the
we
fact
shouldn't.
that everything was hunky dory and everything like went on relatively okay was a sign that it wasn't actually that bad, and like people should chill the fuck out.
Wait, no, we can't take that as evidence, though.
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Yeah,
We
but
absolutely
If we
can.
look at the
Simply because
if we
there's a
look
script
at
to
the
this.
like scope of battery, it's obviously not that bad of battery. The issue is it was on a public thing. It was rude to the Academy Awards. It was fucking unprecedented, unreasonable. Like we're like, I feel like we're getting so lost in the sauce
So
here.
I don't want to like focus like just on whether this is battery or not, right? Like,
Well, it is. So there's no question about it.
It is battery.
It's
It's just
battery.
whether it's
It's
tolerable.
absolutely
Said was
battery.
like, well, he's not gonna get charged, so is it really a battery? Is like, I don't know. I don't know how he. You have to retract that, right? The top dolphin, because that's really stupid,
I
right?
stick to it. If
Oh,
Chris
you're- okay.
Rock doesn't
You
feel that
stick
it was
to
a
it.
battery, it's not a battery.
No, that's not how the law works. Okay.
Right?
Heavy lifting for you, man.
Top dolphin, if I were you.
Agree. It's
Because you seem pretty
obviously
dumb.
battery.
right now.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
I got it, dude. All right, if I like say a bunch of mean things to my friend and he punches me in the face, and I'm like, you know what?
Oh,
yeah,
it's
that's
not
fine.
battery.
Okay.
Okay.
We're having a
Still
definition
battery.
on
It just may
battery.
be
That's not what I
tolerable
wanted,
battery.
right? Okay, let's try it again. Okay. All right. Look, I want to know. The starters
We
must
said
have
here,
know too.
if you're sexually assaulted and no one presses charges, you were never sexually
Oh
assaulted.
my God!
Wait,
Please go!
hold on.
Please go! Please go!
Joey said he's
Please
absolutely wrong. Okay.
go! No!
Nothing to do with
Pull it
just
back!
repressed.
Pull it back! Pull it back!
Person
Pull it
who
back!
like
Pull
assaulted
it back!
them,
If I have to
okay.
mute you, I will. Pull it
Shit.
back. Thank you. All right. Try it again. We are moving away from Will Smith, right? Will Smith did not happen for something else inspired me to ask this question, right? And we are ignoring Will Smith. Great. So, we're making up a hypothetical, right? Someone comes like someone comes
Someone did
to
stupid shit and won a stupid prize.
you go like parents out of school, right? And they're picking up their child. There's another parent B, right? A separate parent who says words about parent A's child, right? Like oh, I think your kid is slow or something or another, right? And there's an altercation, right? Does it make sense that society would step in, right? Like if we're saying that the consequences should be social, right? How far should that expand, right? Like what can count as incendiary? And again, the reason why this fascinates me is because I'm on the other side of this when it comes to the N-word, right? Other people, I've argued many times, will say, well, you know, they said the N-word, and so I guess you should expect to be assaulted. Like that should be the thing, right? I know these things aren't equivalent. I know the N-word is different from, insulting someone's kid. I get that. However, if it's the case that for some group of people, there's a thing that can set them off, and that violence makes sense at that point, right? It seems to be that would be the truth for other people. So, like in the hypothetical I drew, right? Does it make sense that a person should be able to smack the other guy, right? Like,
No.
the
And
fuck?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why real quick. So the reason it's not true, or that we should not accept it, is twofold. One, unless it's a direct threat to the child in question, or it's a call to violence, then there is no moral justification for that person to go off. Because again, we cannot set as a societal standard. Me being triggered about something emotionally cannot be the line, because people go off on their emotions all the time in very unreasonable ways. And while it might be, again, people can feel however they want to feel, they cannot act however they want to act, especially when it comes to doing violence towards other people. We have a societal standard for a reason. It is, legality aside, it is immoral to do violence because of words that are not a direct call to violence and are not a direct threat of harm.
Scott Stardust, Katie.
Okay, so
No, Scott said Scott Stardust,
pose...
Katie. Scott Stardust, Katie.
I just want to reiterate again that you know, I do appreciate Wick has drawn his moral line in the sand, right? That like there is no such thing as words, where it is his belief that there is a moral kind of situation here. But I would say that that isn't necessarily how everyone feels, right? I do think that there is a difference sometimes between what we need to maintain order in our society in terms of laws and what might be considered moral or immoral, right? So myself as a parent, right? If I have a get together with some other kids, right? And some guy's like, haha, your kid's ugly. I'm gonna be like, yo, that's a dick thing to say. But if some guy rails on about my child at a fucking like birthday party or something, right? And just won't shut the fuck up saying horrible, mean shit about my kid, at a certain point, I'm gonna smack the fuck out of the dude. I'm gonna be like, hey, you wanna keep talking shit? And I understand that what I just did broke the law. I understand that I now have possible repercussions under the law that I have to face, that I may have to face. But at a certain point, there is a large group of people that would look at that situation, and if it was the first situation where someone's just like, oh, haha, your kid's fat, they'd be like, dude, you fucking hit that guy over that? Or if we explain the situation, or they're there, and this guy's like talking about like, you know, my kid's such a piece of shit, and like he's such a fat little fuck, and like, and just like goes on and on and on. People are like, yeah, I understand why you hit that guy. I'd hit that guy too. And we have to understand that that's
like a medical condition or something of that sort that like hits the line a little harder.
Right. Well, I mean, since you said it, right? Like my son's autistic, right? So like, let's say they just kept making fun of his autism for like 20 fucking minutes. At a certain point, I'd be like, this guy's getting slapped in the fucking mouth. And like that you may say, well, that's just the worst thing ever and we could never do that. It's like, nah, I'm willing to take a fucking battery charge in that situation to let my kid know that like if somebody's going to do that, daddy's going to be there to make sure that nobody does that shit to his son.
Wait,
okay.
So I think
we got to start us. Start us, Katie.
Okay. I'm glad that Fabian brought up that point about somebody talking like trash about your kid at a birthday party or in public or something, like at a parents meeting or something, and somebody's saying like, oh, this person's kid is such a fucking idiot. Like, I can't believe that they're not in like a special school. Like, oh my god, they're so fucking dumb. Did you take meth while you were having that kid? Like, at a certain point, I think that there are social consequences, and I think that sometimes social consequences can, if the words are inflammatory enough, I do think that sometimes social consequences include escalating to a physical act. It's rare occasions. It's very rare occasions. But if somebody were saying like, oh, you know, your kid looks really fucked up, are they a crack baby? And they kept, I mean, I'd probably think it's funny the first time, but then they kept going on about it for like 10 minutes. I would probably be like, okay, what the fuck's wrong with you? Stop. And if they don't stop, then yeah, you're gonna get smacked, you know? So, yeah.
Katie topped off in K.
Yeah, I think it's really unfortunate that panel got so lost on this. I don't really know why anyone would think it's reasonable to physically assault someone unless it's to defend yourself. That would be self-defense would be my only caveat for that. I actually respected like Fabian's take, which is like he said, I know that I'll be breaking the law at that point, and that's just a hit I'm willing to take. And I'm like, good for you. Luckily for my position, it's kind of like, well, the law says you can't do shit like that. So when people are going to talk about like changing the law and shit, like the stupid words that suddenly allow you to punch people, then that's a big problem. I don't like that at all. But currently, if people are willing to punch someone because they got super triggered that they were insulted in some way and they're willing to pay a big fine or get dragged to court or like be handled by the justice system, yeah, good for you. As long as it's illegal, then I think society is doing something right. It shouldn't be legal.
Top dog,
Will Smith should have been persecuted.
prosecuted.
And persecuted.
And both. Okay. Top dolphin, and then Kate, and then not Erudite.
I think there's something that's missing that Fabian included this very well in his story that I think is like missing from the rest of this conversation, and this is kind of where I think it's kind of like we're missing the point. There's I don't like the word violence here, or maybe like not all physical acts are violence. Maybe it's what I'm trying to say, but like there, like when Fabian told the story about like he's talking, so this guy like parent won't stop talking trash about his kid, so he like hits the parent and says, "Hey, do you want to keep doing that?" Right? There's a difference between like, "Hey, I'm mad and I'm going to hurt you," and like a slap that's like, "Hey, whoa, wake the fuck up! This is not okay," right? Like, I don't think maybe he is, but I don't think Fabian in that case, it kind of like his story says, he's not trying to hurt, he's not trying to injure the guy, he's not trying to put the guy in the hospital. He's trying to like communicate to this guy that like it's not okay. And there's this realm of like physical acts, or maybe you could call it violence or something like that. But there's this realm in the middle here that I feel like people generally very well understand, even though it's not like really in our legal system, where you're like not necessarily trying to hurt somebody. You're not like it's
So
not like someone
Dolphin,
said
what if
the
they don't
N-word
stop?
and you're like,
What if he's hitting
I
someone?
think he
Just
needs
get
at
him to
least-
stop, and then they don't stop. They keep going. Do you keep hitting them? Do you escalate? Do you kill them?
well, no, you don't
No.
kill them, right?
So where do
like,
you stop? But
so
that's
maybe-
the problem with
and then you
violence.
walk
That's the
away,
problem with
right?
violence
So wait,
because it
wait.
escalates. Because as soon as Fabian, lays hands on someone for talking shit, the other person is justified to lay hands back, and it
I
will
think-
escalate, and it
Absolutely.
will go further,
there's
and it will end up
there's
in a
And then
lot
I'll,
of
People
I'll,
will get
I'll
shot
remove,
because you don't-
I'll remove your little ass from the fucking
when
playground.
somebody is
You've never been in
repeatedly
a fight in your fucking life.
I think there's a point to be made here. When somebody's repeatedly insulting a family member and they won't stop after you've told them several times to stop, I think the act of giving them a backhanded slap is not so much even like to start a full-on fist fight with the person. It's just
But you don't get to decide
communicate-
that, though.
Wait a minute, let me finish. Let
Wait,
me
but
finish.
people
Let
absolutely
me finish.
know.
Let me finish. Wait. Okay. The point is not to start a full-on physical fight with them. You're just giving them a backhand slap to communicate that you are not going to take that type of disrespect. And if my kid were watching me interact with this person who kept talking trash about my kid, I'm not going to let my kid think that I'm okay with them being disrespected.
But you
Okay,
can
the problem with
communicate
your
that in so many
analyses
other
is-
ways. I
is-
really want to push back against this because, again, if you slap someone, it doesn't matter what you intend to happen.
Okay,
What
wait,
happens is
But you
Wait,
have
wait,
to
wait,
think
wait.
about this. When you're getting
Oh,
like,
no, we'll get to you,
verbally
Erudite. We'll get to you. We're going to go to
Can
Kay.
I like finish?
You're not finished.
Yeah, because
Oh,
like
we got dogpiled.
because Wick like fucking jumped in and like can't control himself for some reason. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But, like,
it was a
you
very
say like
controlled
people don't know
interruption.
this.
It was
Okay?
a very controlled
People
interruption.
don't know this. You're saying like people don't like you hit someone. People like you can't control that. But like in general, right? And I'm speaking to like experience in society. People know the difference, right? Like intuitively, the difference between a hey, stop that slap and a hey, I'm trying to hurt you slap. people understand, like, fundamentally, like, I know this because I've been slapped a lot of times because I make a lot of fucking like edgy jokes at people and like piss a lot of people off, and I know the difference between like somebody hits me and it's like, hey, I overstepped a line, and they're trying to like, I don't know, like assert that I'm crossing boundaries and stuff like that, and hey, like this person is trying to hit me and I need to defend myself because I'm hurt. Right?
I don't
And
think
like
everyone
Chris
knows
Rock
that.
can do the difference, and like most people in society can tell the difference when this happens.
No,
And
this-
like obviously our legal system doesn't like accommodate this, but like it's something that's understood.
Okay, K, not Erudite, then Pisco, who's bursting. It's okay.
I feel like the point that Top Dolphin's trying to say, like, I don't want to compare it or take words and put words in your mouth, and I also don't want to compare this comparison, but I feel like this kind of road we're kind of like delving down on is more of like a punishment thing. It's like, hey, knock your shit off. Like when you have a kid and your kid touches something they're not supposed to, you slap their hand, you say, hey, stop doing that shit. Like, and your kid goes, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't be doing that. Or your kid says something and you punish them for it. You're not probably gonna smack them for it because it's a word. You're gonna tell them like, hey, go sit in timeout. You shouldn't be saying that word. That's kind of the situation we're in. Somebody said something out of pocket that they shouldn't be saying in that situation, and they need to get punished for it if they're going to keep doing it. When you tell them, hey, don't do that, there's a point in time where just you telling them not to do it isn't going to stop that
It's
situation.
America. He has a right to say. He has a right to insult.
All
him.
right, but he also I also have a right to defend myself in that situation. And if I feel like you're offending somebody that I love and hold dear to me that I know is not going to say anything, I'm going to stand up for you. I was at a point in time where I was bullied. I have scars all over my face. I was called Scarface all through middle school. There was a point in time where my brother went and punched a kid in the face. And after that point, guess what? No one called me Scarface anymore. They all realized, hey, you probably shouldn't be fucking saying that shit. And guess what? It stopped. One punch was all it took. Like, sometimes that's all it takes to get a realization in some people that you shouldn't be saying the shit that you're fucking saying, and you're gonna get more hurt if you keep saying the shit you're saying.
One punch woman. All right, we'll go to Erudite, then Pisco.
Sure. So the line at which I would say like violence is appropriate is going to be very, 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 very far back. Like you have to be basically exhausting all of your other solutions before you ever escalate to that. Just to be clear, that's my stance on it, which I think probably differs me from other people who are maybe have a further line along, right? I think there is a place in time though, for example, where when like this idea, the reason why a theory of violence for culture can be helpful is it sets that line of saying you don't just get to say whatever the shit you want to me and have no recourse no matter what. Like there is this line, and I think that line needs to be really far back, probably further back than even people who are like agreeing with me on this. Like I'm like, I mean, I don't engage in violence because anytime you do, that threat can be given back to you and I'm gonna fucking die. So I'm not doing that, right? But I'm trying to get into the minds of like, there is a time, for example, with men, there is absolutely a threat of violence to some extent that actually deters some of the like toxic shit talk. For example, if you're walking down a street and somebody's pestering and pestering and pestering and pestering and pestering and pestering, and then they are texting you and they're calling you and they're constantly like blowing up all of your social media and everything, there might be a time when you've tried every other recourse where, like Kay said, one punch to the face might actually solve all the problems. Now, I think that is a rare case, and it's not something I'm broadly going to educate and encourage people to do. But I think like we have to have that nuance of space of saying, yeah, there of course there are times where things go to violence. I just think it really shouldn't be a reactive violence.
Okay, Pisco, and then Wick.
So, what Erudite said is absolutely true. Like, no one is saying that violence is never justified. No one is saying that any and all physical touch amounts to a battery. It has to be an offensive touching. And, you know, what does that mean? You know, it's up to the police and the jury to determine. The problem with all of your analyses, those of you who are on the Top Dolphin path to anarchy, is it's all ex post. The reason why we stop and why we criminalize certain conduct or why we prescribe certain conduct is because in the moment, you don't know how it's going to end up. And if you analyze after the fact, fine, that like, okay, afterwards, turns out the slap was no big deal. And so what do you know? What if that slap, now I'm not saying that slap was ever going to seriously hurt Chris Rock. Think about how your opinion would be different if that slap just was the magical slap, just landed him in the right place where he like landed weird and like he broke his back or he broke his arm or something. Just because of the random chance related to an outcome, Now you guys all think that he should be going to jail. That would change your total perspective on this conduct just based on the harm that was by chance caused.
Just
The
to be
reason
clear, I am opposed to what Will Smith
Yeah,
did
I know.
vehemently.
I
Just
totally
I just
understand.
want to make that really clear because I don't want to get lumped
I'm in
into
the
certain
top
groups that are
dolphin. Yeah,
not.
I'm in the
Yeah.
top dolphin world
Okay.
where you're analyzing everything after the fact. We prescribe malicious intent before the fact and the act itself, because in the average case, you're not going to know ahead of time all the consequences of your actions. And one little push off a bus turns out an old lady dies. And so yeah, that conduct is bad, even if by mere chance it turns out that the harm wasn't great. Does that mean that Will Smith should be in jail? Probably not, given this conduct. But we shouldn't take it lightly and just be like, oh, this is a playful slap. This was a violent, aggressive act, and it should be condemned full force.
Hey,
Okay,
Wick.
so Erida actually brought up a really good point, where she said, "I would never do this because I can't." And this is a problem with this kind of talk. This is a problem with this kind of fuck around, find out mentality. It only works if you are stronger than the person doing the thing to you. To act as if everyone knows and everyone's going to act reasonable and they can just mentally know what kind of slap it is, I think is very facetious. That's a very, very dangerous way of thinking, because you don't, especially if it's a stranger, especially if it's someone at a party or someone at a bar you may not have met. Maybe this is your first social interaction with them. You don't know their life. You don't know them. You don't know what's going to upset them. So you're
They have a gun.
You're
Yeah, but
slap.
here's the difference,
Just
Wick.
let me
Because
finish.
I
Just
know
let
that
me
I can't have the
finish.
threat of violence, I don't fucking say some shit. Like, I'm mindful about, in part, what I say, because, like, the reality is, like, yeah, I
This is
can't go there.
America. This is America.
Yeah,
We're here
you
to
should
protect
not have
your
to
right
live under that
insult
threat
people,
of the
to yell at
mighty.
people. I mean, not to harass people, not to stalk people, but to be like, yeah, I think Donald Trump, you're a piece of crap. I think your family's this, then whatever. Half of the people right now, are totally fine with saying horrible, vicious things about conservatives. And you know what? I've said some vicious things about conservatives too. But like the second it's someone that you like more like agree with, then it's like, oh, we have to do hands off. Oh, you should watch what you say. No, this is America. We care about your right to like say things and to be insulting and to be outrageous even, and to burn the flag if you want to. And so like we should not be allowing these brigands and these like people who want, I don't know, like a system of vigilante justice to be like, talk shit, get hit. No, that's not the principle of America.
Oh,
Yeah,
Wick,
it's
Wick, go
terrible
ahead.
So I want to.
Yeah,
Wick,
it's just a
Wick, and
terrible-
then Scott.
It's just a terrible precedent set. It's going to cause huge amounts of societal harm if we normalize this. We have been moving away from this, from dual culture, from honor culture, for hundreds of years. We've been moving steadily away. Society has improved because of it. And so and I fear this. I don't know this. I don't have data to back this up. But from what I see and what I hear online, it's starting to kind of turn the other way, and I'm pushing it back against that as hard as I fucking can, because I've seen the harm it's done. I know what violence fucking looks like, gang. It's horrific, and
Sure.
fuck around, find out. Yeah, it's
agree.
not going to go how
I
you
agree
want it to
almost
do.
wholeheartedly. What I'm trying to say is when people are advocating for like say shit, get hit, it's often largely culturally informed, right? And I'm trying to say, is there nuance in there? If all of these people think that there's some merit to it, there might be something in there that we shouldn't just toss out. We should look for it, right? I've already said I'm broadly wholly against violence. I'm almost completely on your side. I'm just saying, let's not be unnuanced and throw everything out. Let's like
I don't
look for
think
the
I
pieces
am
that
being
are good.
nuanced.
Okay,
I think
okay.
I've given several
So,
exceptions to what I would say. I would say again, direct calls to violence
so,
and
anyways,
threats. I've been pretty nuanced.
So
I've been
your-
pretty
so your
things,
exception
but I
is
just
self-defense.
reject
That's your
wholeheartedly the
exception.
idea that
That's
All right,
it.
so
Yeah, it's an exception.
everyone here that's saying they're against violence is feeding into a bullshit mythology. Every
no one
single
is
one of
saying
you
they're
are
against violence.
Go
No
ahead,
one.
go ahead,
Not
Scott,
a single
Scott.
fucking person.
every Wick, shut up for just a second. Listen. Every single time you advocate for a law, you are advocating for violence. Okay? Just because we have taken violence that used to be done by individuals and then given them authority by the state to commit violence on your behalf
Violence.
doesn't mean
Stop
that
this
you're
shit.
not it doesn't mean that you're not violent. Okay? The fact of the matter is that when you say there should be a new street traffic law, when you say that the speed limit should be changed, when you say that we should ban cigarette smoking in this area, you are advocating that if someone says, fuck you, I'm not going to do this, that
When you
armed
ban
men-
murder, it's
when
violence.
armed-
When you
armed-
ban rape,
Pisco,
it's
shut the fuck
violence.
up.
When you
Shut
ban
up.
anything,
Pisco,
it's violence.
Shut the fuck up.
This is
That
such
is-
a
it is violent.
anarcho-capitalist.
It is
violent.
violent.
And
Just
just not
Yes.
violent
Just
towards Pisco.
Pisco.
Go off to
violence
your
is always
ANCAP land,
because
bro.
holy fuck, what is this argument?
Pisco,
Like, fuck.
Pisco, yes, all of those things are advocating
Absurdity.
for violence because humans are violent by our very nature. Order and stability demands that armed men willing to commit violence will do so on your behalf if you're unable to protect yourself. That's what police are. Okay, so this idea that like, oh, we just, violence is always bad and violence is always
No
wrong.
one said
Motherfucker,
that.
you're supporting violence
No
every
one
day.
said that violence is always
Right?
bad.
When you
But
say when you
we're
say
talking about
such- when you say-
interpersonal violence from
when you
citizens.
when you say that Chris Rock should like press charges, right? You're saying that you support
didn't
the
say that.
idea of violence.
Bro,
that
none of
that
us think
someone will
violence is
forcibly-
never justified. I don't know what got in your head. I support the Ukrainians right now being very violent in their struggle. I support the
Pisco,
violence inherent in
Pisco,
the
that's
state.
not what
I
that
support
one
the
said.
violence. I support the
Pisco,
violence inherent
Pisco,
in
are
a,
you
in a
ever
national
able?
government.
Are you ever able to like make your own arguments, or do you just try and find a hole in whatever someone is saying?
I'm
and
making
then
my
yell
own
and
argument.
interrupt
Yes,
them?
yes.
It's
So
literally
I
making his
support-
argument right now.
I support
Right.
the violence inherent in having a government.
He's making an argument that apparently isn't about him, right? But what I'm saying, if you need me to be more specific, I'll tailor it to Wick, right? So that you're not so offended here. This idea that we don't understand that we are a violent people, and then if you
Yeah,
are
we
not
are. No
willing
one
to
denies
commit
that.
violence yourself,
We're
you
all
are
willing
weak.
to commit violence.
Okay,
We're
and-
all
and
willing
you
to commit
need to
violence. in
under-
certain-
You need to
Who are you
understand.
talking to?
Oh, God, Scott,
Pisco,
Scott.
I've literally already said who I'm talking to. Will you shut the fuck up?
No one's saying violence is never justified.
Scott,
Wick
the-
is saying that regularly.
No,
No,
he's
he
not.
didn't.
No, I'm not.
He didn't
Yes,
say
you
that.
are. He's saying that you
No,
can't
he's
commit
not.
violence.
He's not. You're just
You said
making
that
a straw man.
multiple
You need to
Doesn't
go back to the
exist.
schools that
Doesn't
where there's no
exist.
Romeo and
The
Juliet, there's no
schools.
Wick
Bible.
explicitly
And-
said that there are absolutely times even for preemptive violence. He's
This
just
is
arguing.
satire.
He said preemptive
In
violence
some
is
of these
sometimes
cases-
justified.
Yeah,
You're
he's
just
saying
not
in
listening 'cause
interpersonal.
you're
His
high
view
on
is in
yourself and your
interpersonal. There's never space for it.
anarcho-capitalist libertarianism
Right, I
bullshit.
get, I
You
get,
didn't-
I get
no
that
one.
you can say, I get that you can say the key words about my ideology, and then people can meme
But-
and laugh.
no, sorry.
and
You,
made a fucking point.
you're addressing no
a
one.
point.
Everyone here who isn't you agrees with the violence inherent in a fucking government because we're not crazy. Everyone here agrees that sometimes, I'm assuming sometimes violence is justified to defend yourself. No one here has said self-defense is not justified. No one here has said that war is never justified. So you're
People-
talking
nope,
to
you're
no
not.
one.
You're saying words that I didn't say, and then saying no one is saying those things that the people didn't
You're
say.
like, how can you
Pisco,
guys
stop.
support like laws about roads? That's violent too, bro. Like, yeah, if
Nobody
there's
fucking
violence
said
in
that. Pisco.
Can
Shut
we just
the
get
fuck
back
up.
to
said
the
it.
actual
Can I
point,
just-
which is
but the
basically the
point that I'm
question of
trying- no,
in
my
interpersonal
point-
situations, is there ever a time where verbal aggression is enough to allow for physical aggression? Is
That's
that
not
is
my
that,
fucking point, not
In
swear.
very
I know.
rare
I'm trying to get to a more meaningful point.
No, the
in
point
very
that
rare
I am making,
situations, I think it's
point that
morally
I am
neutral.
fucking making.
You know what?
Yeah,
is that
Violence is
everyone
morally
keeps
neutral,
saying,
guys.
Okay, all right.
Everyone keeps saying like, "Oh, we don't want to
Yes.
be violent. We need to get away from violence." Wick is saying like,
I
we've
have a
got
question.
rid of
Interpersonal
violence.
violence.
Let him finish. Let
better
him finish.
for it.
And then
And it's
Stardust.
like, no, we have not gotten rid of violence in our society. What we have
Can I
done is we have moved violence from interpersonal violence, and we've given that power and ceded that authority
Yo,
over
you
to
haven't
Where it
listened to
should be,
what
where
I
it should be.
said.
We have minutes though, and
Until
you're not gonna
fuck
make
around
them.
and
You're not
find
gonna.
out what happens,
it's
and
not-
your fucking government has some issues.
Okay,
and then all of a sudden you're not prepared
Stardust,
to deal with violence.
Stardust.
Right, that's a good question. Okay. All right. First off, I think. Well, okay. Well, never mind. Everybody's heard my take. But okay, my question is, let's say you're walking to your car at night, okay, and some guy comes up in a trench coat and shows his dick to you. He just flashes you with his dick and just waves it around at you. Do you have a right to enact violence on this man for having shown his dick to you? He
I'm
didn't
just
even
gonna tell him
say
how
anything.
small his penis is.
It
He-
can't- no,
Wait a minute. I didn't finish. He didn't even say anything to you. All he did is run up to you and show his dick to you. That's all he
depends.
did.
Do you think do you fear for that unlawful force is going to be applied to you?
I mean,
No,
I
but
don't
it's
know.
fucking gross. I might want to like kick him in the
don't
dick.
know. Here's the thing. In the moment when he runs up to you with his dick exposed, you don't know what he's gonna do.
Okay, so if you're in fear, if you're in a legitimate, reasonable fear that you're going to be subjected to unlawful force, that's called self-defense. And so we'd be okay with that. Depends on what this, the
Well, all
objective,
he's done
rational
so far is
person.
wave his dick at you.
Okay, so
Can
my,
you
my-
argue that somebody verbally harassing you over and over could potentially be a space where an escalation of force might be warranted?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
If you're
that's
in
all
fear,
I'm trying. That's literally all I'm
first of
trying
all,
to say.
that conduct is illegal, and so the proper
I'm
course
more
of
like
action.
meet online
if-
or something like that, like where you just can't.
Okay,
They're calling your telephone over and
Well,
over
the
and
thing
over
about
from different
self-defense is
numbers.
one of the key principles is imminence, right? It's a license from the state who usually we endow with the power of violence to be the person who's ultimately enacting the violence, because we believe in that violence. Unlike Fabian Liberty Scott, we believe in the state enacting violence, actually. But the self-defense is an exception to the general rule, which is the state is the one that conducts the violence. And it's saying when the state can't get to you in time, when you need to fend for yourself, we're going to carve out this exception, but the exception is going to be narrow. And the threat to your life has to be imminent. And it's right here, and it's in your face. That's when you're allowed to enact force against someone else. But just general insulting, when we're talking about violence in the context interpersonally, what we're saying is we don't want people to resort to self-help. We don't want, as a general rule, as a general matter, if there's illegal speech going on or something, you call the government, you call the police. That's what they're there for. It's not saying that we have a problem with all violence inherently. It's saying we agree with violence as channeled through certain institutions that we believe are institutionally competent to handle violence.
Nice.
And we aren't in that world where, in an anarcho-capitalist world, where violence is going to come upon you anyway, because people with big guns and big private military corporations, they're going to enact their own violence on you, whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
I
we
wanted
can-
to ask the dick question for everybody on the panel. Would you guys all simultaneously agree about using violence on the dick waiver?
I mean, I think I would say
Really?
that I would say yes, and I would say that that's probably, as John Locke would describe it, a state of war, because you don't really know what the fuck this person is gonna do, right? So they've put themselves in a state of war because you're dealing with this like irrational person, and at this point you have to use violence as a means of stopping whatever the
You're
fuck.
trying to unlock your car door, and this guy runs up to you and just shows
It's
his junk to you.
self-defense. I don't want to say it
Is
depends
he-
on
is
your
he
mindset.
running
What if
at
it's
you
clear
as
from
he's
his
showing
body
Yeah, he's
language that
running
he's
at
not
you,
going to do
dude, with
anything?
his
Then
dick
no,
out.
then no, it's
But
not
what if
justified.
it's clear, right? Like, what
Then
if it's
no,
like
then
he
no.
seems like
But-
on drugs? You can tell he's not going to grab you. He's just kind of
Then
like,
no.
"Ooh, look at my
Then
dick,"
no.
and you're like, "I don't really want
But,
to."
then
But there's
no.
no threat of
But
violence.
Pisco,
What
what
if the
difference?
dick
No in that.
touches
But
you?
Pisco,
What
what
if his
difference does
dick
it make?
touches you?
Oh my God,
Then
Pisco.
I'm gonna
That is
fucking hit him in the face, dude.
That's unlawful application of force, right? Or it's an unlawful touching. That's a battery. That's an offensive touching. A battery is not just, guys, like hitting someone with force and causing them injury. It's an offensive touching. And so you would be enacting self-defense
thrusting
to
and
prevent
it
that
accidentally
unlawful
hitting
What
touching.
if it's your father?
Yeah.
But Pisco,
What if it's your
but
dad
Pisco,
waving his
What
dick
if
at
it's
you?
Oh my God.
but Pisco,
What is your dad?
but Pisco, what? Oh my God, Pisco. You're saying that like it matters whether you think force will be applied afterwards, right? Well, this is about to
It matters-
escalate into force,
Couldn't I
right?
just
But,
justify
like,
that
you're-
I
I
thought
mean,
it
but
was,
I'm
even if I
saying that like
wasn't
if there
worried
is
about
two
it?
different people, right, and the exact same situation, whether it's the waving dick situation, I don't know, whatever, right? But two different people, right? It's me, and then it's I'm not gonna say erudite. I'll say Top Dolphin, right? So me and Top Dolphin, right? Top Dolphin thinks it's like no big thing, and then me, and again the exact situation I do, right? Is it suddenly justified just because I felt that way? Like, even though
it has
that
to be it has to be reasonable, right? So if someone is coming at you with like a bag of groceries, and you in your own subjective mindset think that they're about to attack you, but no reasonable person would think that, then no, of course not. It has to be both your subjective thought pattern, this person is a threat, and also a reasonable one. And people who are in the chat saying, some assholes like, you have never been outside. The reason why we have these rules is because they make sense. Because we want to carve out a space where private violence is allowed. And that space is self-defense. But that space is not wide and plastic enough to include someone making fun of you for your shirt or because you're bald. That's the only difference here. And in a world, I don't know, in a country, I suspect, I thought Fabian Liberty Scott was a libertarian. And surely he thinks that freedom of speech is an important value, or that people should have the right to say what they want. So I have no idea why I don't know. Is he supporting the view that self-help in the form of violence against private speech is acceptable?
I guess the issue is that like I feel
so-
like there's a difference between like the letter of the law and like the world that we kind of operate within,
can I
right? Like in the
respond
case
to
of
the
a man like running up, swinging his willy around, and me
Jesus
being like,
Christ.
"Oh, this is kind of fucking gross," I might kick him in the balls, right? I might not. But if I heard of a woman doing that, I honestly wouldn't be like, oh, that was morally bad. Like I'd be like, oh, that's probably neutral. Like there was probably other things you could have done, but I don't think anyone would actually like hold anything to her and be like, oh, you probably should have been
Why not
charged
kill
with
him?
like assault.
Why not kill him?
All right, so Pisco, yeah.
Why
So you
not?
keep asking me why I support things that I don't support and straw manning me. So if you could just like listen, I would really
Yeah.
appreciate that because
Just
supposedly
like you
you're
listened
smart.
with Wick, right? When you like
Right,
totally
like-
mischaracterized him.
No, I didn't. It's just you like to yell and scream and lie.
Oh, you didn't mischaracterize Wick?
I did
Remember
not
when you said
mischaracterize Wick.
you were
And
like,
again,
Wick
This
is
is
you're
funny.
mischaracterizing this idea that I'm
Wow.
against freedom
the
of speech.
copium?
You're mischaracterizing this idea that I'm somehow not libertarian because of what I stated. I didn't say it's morally justified always to fucking go around hitting people. What I said is there's a difference between law and there's a difference between morality, and sometimes those areas are gray. And when individuals step into those gray areas, they should expect to receive the appropriate punishment for going against those things and transgressing them. But there are certain situations where even that is morally acceptable to a certain degree, but not necessarily legally acceptable.
Okay. All right. So we gotta we've hit the end of our time. This was really intense.
Wait, what if you kick them, but they're into cock and ball torture, so they like it?
There we go. Thank you. There's Erudite doing doing the hard work, right? Like a teacher, bring it back, right? Like short circles back.
We've squared this circle. I think
We did, right? Stardust is amazed at your skill, Erudite. All right, so thanks so much. To my audience, we will continue on. We'll continue on with the content. We have a walk-on panel right after this. No need to go away. More content as always. 7 days a week of content, right? Exclamation point social and chat for our social media in case you don't have it already, right? We got Twitter, we got Discord, we got YouTube. Fuck, I keep saying Facebook. YouTube, where you find the VODs. If you missed anything, you missed a lot, right? So check it out. Like, comment, subscribe, consider becoming a YouTube member by hitting that join button. Also, just hit the follow button here. Hit the follow button. You haven't done so yet, right? Mission notifications on 7 nights a week, either here or on YouTube. We're always doing something, all right? So stick around for that. Consider subbing, gifting bits or gifting subs to this community and keeping us up and running. All right, I'm going to give an outro to all these amazing individuals, but again, we still have more content coming for you, so stick around. Top Dolphin. I didn't expect your fight with Pisco. I didn't see that one coming on these grounds. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I was I don't know. I think all the yelling fixed my stomach ache, so I'm feeling pretty great right now. No, like obviously, like Pisco, respect the fuck out of you. All of you guys seem pretty great. Like it's fun to talk to people. I had a great time on this panel. I think it was a lot of fun, and I think cock and ball torture is based. And if you, there's no cock and ball torture there, but if you want a cock and ball torture free space, you can find me at twitch.tv/topdolphin or twitter.com/topdolphin_.
A CBT free space. That's not where I'm at. Let's
Cock
go.
and ball torture, not CBT. We're being very clear with our language here.
All right, Scott. As you never feel, you are the most effective lightning rod. Like you manage it. You exist in a space, and the attacks come. So thank you.
I'm used to it. Yeah, so I'm Scott from Fabian Liberty. We're a duo anarcho-capitalist stream. Check us out on YouTube under the same name, Rumble, same name. Recently just made a Twitter. Apparently, like, I can't talk to any fucking like big name libertarians. They won't fucking answer their emails or anything unless you have a following on Twitter. So much for fucking alt tech boys. We're on Twitter and talking shit. So follow us on Twitter. Yeah, it's always fun coming here. It's nice to come into like just like kind of a den of lefties from time to time and just like get the hate thrown at you and then like go somewhere else for like a more like balanced debate. It's fun. So I had fun. Also, I would suggest if people were like not quite understanding the point that I was trying to make about violence and things like that, there's a really good article by Jack Donovan called "Violence is Golden." It's a great read and just worth it if you're just interested in learning more kind of about what I was talking about. Wild fucking dude, Jack Donovan, though.
Thank you so much. All right, K Buck off. I've been calling you Bucko literally the entire time.
I don't care. I've been called Bucko, Bucka off, Buckets, whatever. It doesn't matter.
I was looking
K-Buck,
at your
like-
name when I invited you, and it only just clicked. Oh, that's what she was trying to do. She's doing a funny there. All
Well,
right,
my
so
fiance's last name is Buck, and every username he's ever had on anything is Buckoff69. And so when I was thinking of a name, he was like, "Why don't you just put K? Because your name's Kaylee." And I was like, "Sounds good." And it actually plays better because it's kind of like K fuck off instead of just Buck off. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, K Buck off on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. I stream when I want to. It's kind of interesting to see Fabian say the same thing I said, but I just said it after him, or me agree with everything Fabian said, and everyone dogpile on him, and then one person attack me, and then everyone go right back onto Fabian. It was kind of funny, and I kind of interjected when I could to try to take some of the heat off, but it was everyone against Fabian, and there was no point of even getting in. So I was just like, "I'm sorry, Fabian, but you're the one getting hit on today." Like.
you I'm sorry, but you're just not quite on this level. All right, you're not
No,
quite
I'm not
on
on
this.
Fabian's level of
No.
pissing everyone off yet. I'll
Yeah,
get there
yeah.
eventually.
You haven't, Fabian. He knows the dark secrets of pissing off liberals, right?
Yeah.
He's a master of them. So
I'm the only liberal here. None of you are liberal.
oh boy, oh my god. Anyway, moving on. We have Not So Erudite. Oh man, it was a lot of fun having you. Erudite, you were great tonight. Seriously, thank you for being a part of this, making this chat better, buddy. So, Erudite, tell the world about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Not So Erudite. I stream pretty much every day of the week now, for the most part. I do lots of psychosocial stuff. I've been in a lot of debates recently. So you'll probably see more of those. But I do a lot of psychology. I've got degrees in psychology and stuff, so that tends to be where I focus. I mostly just roast pop psychologists who spread misinformation on psychology. But yeah, if you're ever interested in that kind of stuff, check any of my socials out.
Oh no, seriously, seriously, I hate fucking pop psychology. I hate it. I hate armchair psychology. People think they know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes. I know I don't know what I'm talking about, but I recognize that. But people are just saying, "Oh yeah, this person definitely schizophrenic." I mean, I would know. I'm an asshole who watched a YouTube video, and so I got it. It pisses me off. So. But yeah, thank you so much for that, and keep up the good work. Next, we have my man Pisco. Pisco coming in here, swinging as always. That's what he does, right? You're catching rhetorical blows, right? If you mess around my man Pisco. Pisco, thank you for coming through. And
it was a pleasure to be on. It was a wild panel. We're banning the Bible. If you get assaulted and no one reports it, I guess you didn't get assaulted. But overall, fun times. Always fun to hash it out with Fabian. I think, despite my utter bemusement and utter I can't believe his ideology is something that is popular in some circle of the internet. He does bring the content, and so we should for sure respect people who are willing to come on here and take ridiculous views for the sake of the content, and for that I thank Fabian.
Okay. Next we go to Wick. Wick is again, you're just a good guy, and I appreciate you coming on and just being so passionate about everything, literally everything. It's amazing. No, seriously. So Wick, thank you so much. Tell the world about yourself.
Well, I'm Wick. I run the Death of Certainty show at twitch.tv/Death of Certainty. I think this tonight was an important discussion. The two things that I think I'm most passionate about in the world are anti-censorship and anti-violence. I think that if I'm going to talk about something, it's going to be those two topics. A lot of cases, as my audience can probably tell you, I care. I very much care about the societal stance on that, and I advocate for what I believe. You can disagree with me, though. That's part of being anti-censorship, right? So if you hate my takes, if you were like, that's a dog shit opinion, please, come on. We'll talk about it. We will. And I won't tell you you're a bad person. I'll just tell you your ideas are bad, because they are. And that's okay. And we should normalize having bad takes. Sometimes, believe it or not, gang, I'm wrong. And when I know I'm wrong, and when I realize I'm wrong, I admit it. That's like a fucking superpower here, though. So you know what it is. But anyway, that's me. Twitch.tv/Death of Certainty. Tomorrow we have an open call-in show with Kaylee Marie. Come check us out. It's great. Bye-bye.
So much, buddy. All right. Next we have our friend Katie. Katie, for coming through. Thanks. Thank you for coming through. Thanks for being around, being a part of all of this. Katie, tell a little about yourself.
Yeah, so Wick gets it confused, but I'm actually not Kaylee. I'm a whole new separate person that is not Kaylee. I wish I was her though. She's very pretty. Hi Kaylee, I'm sure you're watching. Yeah, I'm me. I just started doing an interview series when I stream about sex. It's very interesting. I interview people with a number of set questions, and then we do a Q&A. We did the first one, and it was really cool. I uploaded to YouTube, so that's cool as well. And I'm going to start streaming a lot more soon. And you can catch me on Wick a lot because he thinks I'm Kaylee, so he invites me.
Okay. All right. Love it. White women all looking the same. I much agree.
Yep.
Let's finally we have Stardust. Stardust, a good friend of the channel. Happy that she was able to be a part of this. Stardust, you add a special type of spice to whatever debate you're in. So thank you for being around and making this spicier. I don't know where I'm going with this. I need to
Is
stop
that
talking.
racist comment?
It is racist because she's Indian.
Wow.
Jesus, Prime.
I did it. You got me. Mask off.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. I just want to say, if Dick Waver ever runs at me in the parking lot, I'm hitting him with my fucking car. And then secondly, I appreciate Fabian for taking all the heat. I was trying to be more controversial today, but it just wasn't happening. People weren't taking the bait, so I just got to try harder next time. But yeah, it is what it is. So you know,
All right.
almost got there with the woman balding. It hurts more women than it hurts men. So almost got there one day. So,
I'm sure Pisco could tell you that this will be used in court against you in the future. All right. We love it. All right. So, incriminating ourselves. Hooray. To my audience, we will continue on for Open Walk On panel right after this. If anyone here on this panel would like to join us, that's okay. But if not, thanks for spending your time, your energy, your knowledge, and your passion for my community. I know they appreciate you as much as I do. Have a good one. Goodbye. This is fucking crazy.